the current Daf, Masech the Shabbos Daf Yud. We begin 8 lines down at the top of the Yamid, where shiur is co-sponsored by Kalzach and Yecheskel, Torah Anytime, and Daf HaChaim. Some of the key topics we're going to speak about today's Daf is an exception to the rule. Although we mentioned in the Mishnah that one is prohibited to carry close to Shabbos, we're going to start off with showing that there's one exception, that's something that you could carry close to Shabbos, and we're not concerned that you can forget and carry on Shabbos. Additionally, we're going to speak about the halacha of the Mishnah of lo yikra lo ir haner, that one should not read to the light of a candlelight, shemeyata, because you might come to tilt the candle. And when do these rules apply? We're going to see that there are two exceptions. There are two, when you have, let's say, two people are reading together, they're allowed to read by the same lamp, because then you can have one remind the other. We're not concerned that you're going to come to tilt. We're going to speak about Adam Chashiv may read by candlelight, because we're also not concerned that he's going to come to tilt, because he generally doesn't do such an activity. He's a Chashiv a person, he doesn't tilt it, so we're not concerned over there. Additionally, we're going to speak about servants, whether they're permitted to check dishes by candlelight to see if they're clean. It might depend what type of a servant and what type of a candle it actually is. So we begin the current daf on 8 lines down at the top of the Amud Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, where we mentioned in the previous Tanzei Bishmal, although we mentioned the halacha of the Mishnah that a person is not allowed to go ahead and carry something before it gets dark because he might forget that he's carrying, so this is actually halacha lamaisa. A person could go out with his tefillin that he's wearing Erev Shabbos right before it gets dark, and we're not concerned like the halacha of the Mishnah that you might come to carry when it's already dark. Says the Gemara, my time, why is this different than all the other things? We said that you're going to come to forget. Says the Gemara, Kivin the Amar Rabbi Baravun, and this is actually halacha also, and we see this, people do this during davening. A person is obligated to touch his tefillin every single moment. Why is that? Actually, by davening might be different, but in general, when someone's wearing his tefillin, let's say in Talmudic times, he used to wear the tefillin all day, a person should be touching his tefillin all the time. Why? Kavachayim mitzitz. It's a kavachayim from the tzitz. Matz is just like the head plate that the Kohen Gadol would wear. She'im ba'ela askar achas. It mentioned just one of Hashem's names, Kodesh LaHashem. And still, the Torah says in Shemais v'haya al metzchay tamid, it should constantly be on his forehead. Now, that's an extra pasuk, because the pasuk already says where it's supposed to be. It already said in the pasuk v'haya al metzach Aaron that it should be on his forehead. So why does it say again v'haya al metzchay tamid? It's an extra pasuk to expound. What does it mean that it should constantly be on his forehead? Meaning that he should not remove his consciousness, his thoughts from the tzitz. So tefillin, so regarding a person's tefillin, shesh ben askaras harb, it mentions God's name many times and you're wearing it on your head. Allah has come and become all the more so that you should not be masich das, you should not forget about it. So you're touching it and you're constantly recalling it. So hilkach midkir dechar lahu. You're always remembering it. The whole reason why he said certain things, and I'll walk out every Shabbos, you might forget, you're distracted, you're absent-minded, you're going to go out and carry on Shabbos. But the tefillin, you're constantly thinking about it. As the halacha requires you to constantly be touching it, you're not going to forget about it. Therefore, you can walk out with your tefillin every Shabbos right before it gets dark, and you're not going to carry it when it already gets dark on Shabbos. Now, continuing on this halacha, related to this idea about walking out Erev Shabbos and you might forget. So Tanya will learn in the Brisa, Chanan Yomer, he says, and this is actually also a very important halacha lamaisa, Chayav Adam lemashmish bebigda, a person is obligated to touch his garments Erev Shabbos imcha shecha. Friday afternoon, right before it's getting dark, a person should make sure that there's nothing stuck onto his garment, let's say something maybe stuck in his pocket, that he might come to walk out with, and actually it's halacha on Shabbos too, a person should check his pockets before he walks out, because he might come to carry. So you should make sure that there's nothing in your pockets before Shabbos, or something stuck onto the garment, the way Rashi says, Erev Shabbos before it gets dark. And Rabbi Yosef, he says, Hilchas HaRabbos LeShabbos, this is a great teaching over here for the halachas of Shabbos, because it's to separate a person from Isser Shabbos, as we find that Haitzah is a more common malacha that could be done, because people are constantly coming and going, and therefore, to prevent a person from violating the malacha of Haitzah, a person should check his garments beforehand, and that'll protect him from the Isser of Haitzah on Shabbos. Now we go back to the halacha of the Mishnah. We said that lo yefal es kelev. We transitioned from Erev Shabbos, we went into the halachas on Shabbos, and we said a person should not what's called dilaus. It should check for lice on his garments. In Talmudic times, their clothing it was somewhat a common thing. V'chulu, etc., which then it said another halacha, that one should not read by the candlelight of a candle. Now, Ibaylu, the following question of a lamp. So they said like this. When it says these two halachas, it can be read two different ways. When it says lo yefal es kelev v'lo yikra lo haner, you can read it independently as two different halachas. That is lo yefal es kelev, stop, period. And then another halacha is lo yikra lo haner. Or as our Gemara is going to say, you can read it in one halacha. Lo yefal es kelev v'lo yikra, there's a comma, not a period, lo haner. That both of them are a problem of doing lo haner. In other words, what is the problem of checking for lice on Shabbos, as the Gemara explains. Ibailu. Leifala, as Caleb, when it says you're not supposed to check for lice on your garments, is that by Yoim? Is that even talking about during the daytime? Well, why can't you check for lice during the daytime? Is because Shema Yaharig may be in the process of checking for the lice. You're going to come to kill them, these small, tiny little microbiomes on your clothing. You might kill them. And when it says Lo'er Haner in the Mishnah, it was only going on Lo Yikra. It wasn't going back on Lo Yafala. So who is it going like if we were saying that you're not allowed to check for lice and because we're concerned you might come to kill them even during the day? It's Rabbi Eliezer. It's going like Rabbi Eliezer because the time we learn the Brisa, actually it's a machloikis if you're allowed to kill lice. Tanya, the Brisa says like this. I'm Rabbi Eliezer. He says, if someone kills lice on Shabbos, kilo hayri gamal, it's like he killed a camel, meaning it's like he killed a large creature, which is forbidden to kill an animal on Shabbos. Lice is the same thing. So yeah, we're concerned for you to check lice, not just at nighttime, even during the daytime, because you're not allowed to kill lice. And therefore, we don't let you check. And v'lo yukra lo haner. That's a different halacha. You're not allowed to read to the light of the candle, of the lamp, because you might come to tilted, because to get the oil to the wick. That's one option. Or maybe that actually lo haner that the Mishnah says at the end is actually going back on both cases. Tarvayu, both of them, is shemiyata, that you might come to tilt the lamp, but you're right, during the daytime, you're allowed to check for lice, because actually we hold like the Rabbanan, that there's no problem with killing the lice. Who cares if you're going to check for the lice? So what, you're going to kill them? Who cares? It's not forbidden to kill the lice on Shabbos. So therefore, that's the Gemara's question, when it says in the Mishnah of that lo yafala, is that going on lo haner, or is it its own independent halacha? Says the Gemara, Tashema, we learn in the Brisa that says, Ein Poilin, the Ein Karin L'Haner. It says clearly in the Brisa that one should not go ahead and check for the lice and read to the light of the candle. So you see that the L'Er Haner is going on both cases, which the Gemara answers, Mi Lima Mi Masnitin, is this any better than the Mishnah? The Mishnah also said L'Er Haner at the end, and even so we're in doubt that we could differentiate. We could say that when it says L'Er Haner, is going on Lo Yikra. And when it says in the Lo Yafala, it's not going on the end of the Mishnah of Lo Haner. And therefore here also you could say, like we said in the Mishnah, that Ein Poilin is even in the daytime, and Lo Haner is going on Ein Karin, which actually Tosis asks that what is the Gemara's back and forth over here? It's obvious that this could be just like the Mishnah. So Tosis says two different interpretations, either that because by a Brisa usually they're more explicit. And you would think if it was independent, it would have made a clear demarcation. And from the fact that it doesn't, we're going to say that it means L'Er Haner is going on both of them, or because there's no Vav over here. So if it would have been a Vav, Ve'em Poilin L'Er Haner, like it says in the Mishnah, we would say it's an independent halacha. And the fact that it doesn't have a Vav, so therefore we would assume that it's one long statement, Ein Poilin Ve'em Karin L'Er Haner. That's why the Gemara had asked in the question saying, oh, doesn't it sound like that Ein Poilin of checking the lice is also a problem L'Er Haner? And the Gemara says, no, it's not any better than the Mishnah, that we could say that it's two different halachas. Ein Poilin, you cannot check for the lice simply because you might come to kill them. And Ein Karin is the reason why you can't do L'Er Haner, because you might come to tilt it. So now, however, the Gemara brings up a clear proof, Tashema. The Brisa says that the words L'Er Haner is going on both of them, because it says clearly, explicitly, Ein Poilin L'Er Haner. It says clearly in this Brisa, one cannot check for the lice to the light of the lamp, Ve'en Karin L'Er Haner, and you cannot read to the light of the lamp. And the Brisa continues, Elu min halachas sha'amru ba'aliyas Chananya ben Chizkiya ben Gar. And these are from the halachas, which we're going to learn later on. There was 18 different halachas that we're going to explain that were the machlekes b'sham b'sil. And these are from those that were taught in that upper story of Chananya ben Chizkiya ben Garin. So it says the Gemara, Shema Minon, this is actually the halacha l'maisa, the tarvayu shemayata, both of them checking for lice and reading are both concerns of the light of the candle, because you might come to tilt the candle. Shema Minon, that answers our question which we originally had. We didn't know what Ein Poilin was. Is it like Rabbi Eliezer, or is it because he says you're not allowed to kill the lice, and it would be a problem even during the daytime? And the Gemara says no, it's going like the Rabbanan. We don't hold that there's a problem about killing lice, and the Ein Poilin of checking for the lice is a problem at nighttime by the light of the lamp that you might come to tilt. That was the concern that we're talking about. Now the Gemara continues that actually this halacha of not checking for lice for the light of the candle or reading, so he brings the Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mishmul. This is also halacha l'maisa. Afil lahavchin ben big day ishtay. This was saying that you're not allowed to do certain things by the light of a lamp because you might come to tilted. You can't even check and differentiate between your clothing and your wife's clothing to the light of the lamp, where let's say you don't have electricity and you have light of a lamp and you're checking to see whose clothing it is that you're putting on to get dressed to go to shul, you cannot check to the light of the lamp. Now, Amar Rabbi, he says, wait a second. Lo yamarin ela debnei mechuzah. This was only said for the people of mechuzah, who they were very, very well dressed and more delicate. They didn't do any work, and their clothing were very wide clothing like that of a woman. So therefore, there the men's clothing were very similar, very flamboyant, like that of a woman. So therefore, you might not. And they wore dresses in Talmudic times. They wore these long robes. So therefore, it looks similar to the wife's clothing. So therefore, it requires analysis. So that's where you would have to say that you cannot check to the light of a lamp. But those are the villagers, made the yadi. Everyone, you could easily tell which is the men's clothing, which is the ladies' clothing, because the men's clothing were shorter because they worked in the fields, and the women were their sleeves were very wide open. So there, it's not a problem about doing it to the light of the lamp. You're not going to come to tell, because you very clearly know. You walk into your closet, you know which is your clothing, you know which is your wife's clothing. Therefore, it's not a problem. Now, moreover, says the Gemara, the name Mechuzah Nami, even the people from Mechuzah, who again, they didn't work and they were city people and their clothing were more wide open like the women, we didn't say that it's a problem, only regarding the elderly women, where the elderly women were also a little bit short. The older woman is not as flamboyant as a young woman. And the men they were also had wide clothing, so it's a little bit similar, the man's clothing to the older woman's clothing. That's where you're concerned that you might come to Tilton. But the young women, who their clothing is very wide, and the men are not similar to them at all, then made the yadi, then even over there, it's well known and it's well recognizable, and therefore it would be permitted. That wouldn't be a problem. But again, if it's something that's similar, like Taisa says, let's say you're in the dorm and your clothing is just like your roommate's clothing, then that would be the problem about shemayata, because you can't tell which is your suit and which is his suit, and then you're going to come to check which is to take your clothing. You might come to tilted. That is a problem of shemayata. If you're doing it to the light of the candlelight as at nighttime, then you cannot do that and check by that, because you might come to tilted. Now, turning to the Brisa, once we mentioned in the Mishnah this halacha of lo yefala, which we clarified meant to say you cannot do it at nighttime by the light of the candle of a lamp, because you might come to tilted. So we discuss related halachas, which actually come back to the laws of Shabbos too. Says the Brisa Tanarban, in Pailan, you cannot delouse, which means to get rid of the lice from your clothing, b'rshus harabim, in the public domain, even during the weekday. Why? Covered because of the dignity of passerbys, that you should not make them repulsive. You're not doing an activity out in the street that's going to make people disgusted. You getting rid of the lice from your clothing is disgusting for them. So you can't do that in the street. Similarly, Rabbi Yehuda, some say Rabbi Nechemia, ein oisen afik tavizin b'rshus harabim. You cannot make yourself vomit in the street. Not covered because of the dignity. When you're out in the street, you're by people, you're not supposed to make people disgusted. So one of them is you cannot check for lice publicly, and also you're not supposed to go ahead and make yourself vomit in the street, because it's going to make people disgusting, and that's not something appropriate to do. Now, turn in the Brisa, coming back to the halacha of delousing, of getting rid of the lice on Shabbos. So we learn the Brisa, Mefale es kelev. So if someone on Shabbos is getting rid of the lice from his clothing, so the halacha is as follows. What could he do? So moilul, he could roll the lice. The reason why he would do that is because he wants to weaken them so that they don't come right back. You know, you have some of those flies, you get rid of them, they jump right back on you, So this guy has the lice on him. What he could do on Shabbos is he could take the lice, grab a hold of that lice, roll it, don't kill it, roll it, v'zayrik, and then throw it away. Ubavad shaloi, as long as you don't do a very tight squeezed roll, because yaharik, then you're going to come to kill them. And that's because, as Rashi explains, Machlik is Rashi and Taisa, but Rashi explains that Tanakama holds like the opinion that killing lice on Shabbos is a rabbinic concern. So you're not allowed to kill it; it's rabbinically prohibited. But we let you go ahead and roll it, even though when you roll it you might kill it. But okay, since even if you would kill it, it'll only be rabbinically prohibited. So take the lice, roll it, flip it away. It doesn't come back to you, and that's and as long as you're not going to kill it, we're okay with that. Now, Abba Shalom, he's more stringent, which Rashi explains is like Rabbi Eliezer, that holds no. If you killed the lice, it would be like killing like a camel. You'd be chayav achatas. So therefore, he's concerned you're not allowed to even roll it so that you don't come to kill it. He says no, noitil v'zayrik. What you do is you take the lice, take the louse, you throw it away, as long as you don't roll it. So that's their machlokes regarding if you're allowed to roll it or not, because if you roll it, you might come to roll it very tightly. You might come to kill it. If you hold it's a chiyav chatas, it's a regular issa deraisa of killing a louse, so then you're not allowed to even roll it. If you hold that it's only going to be a shvus, it's only going to be issa derabbanan anyway, which is like the opinion of the rabbanan that hold that it's not issa deraisa anyway, so then we let you even roll it. Now, Amar Avuni says, what's the halacha? So the halacha is ma'idul bazark, you could roll it and you could throw it, which seems to say that that's because it's only an issa derabbanan. We don't hold it's issa deraisa of killing lice. And moreover, he says, "V'zeu kavoidai." That's actually the most honorable way of doing it, that you shouldn't kill the lice, even on the weekday, like we said, because it's disgusting to go ahead and kill the lice and throw it away. It's not a dignified way of doing it. So on Shabbos, you're allowed to roll it. It's not, we're concerned you might come to kill it. What? Oh, so the difference is we're going to explain this later on, that there's we're about to get up to that part of the Rashi, is because that it's based on how the animal proliferates. It depends on what type of creature it is. We'll explain in a second. Good question. Why wouldn't there be a problem about killing the lice? So, but that's what we're saying, that you're allowed to roll it and you're allowed to flip it away, and that's the dignified way of doing it, even during the weekday. Now, the Gemara brings actually in practice, what did the Amoram do? So, Rabbi Mikatelu. Rabbi would actually kill them even on Shabbos, again, because there's no problem about killing them on Shabbos, which is even permitted. Rav Sheshes, also Mikatelu, he would kill the lice on his clothing. Rava, what he would do is shadilu l'kana demaya. He would throw it into a bucket of water, which he wouldn't kill it straight out. Like we said, it's not a dignified way of doing it. Amalu Rav Nachman Labanter, Rav Nachman would tell his daughters, Ketoil, I want you to kill the lice on my clothing. Vashmi'inin likola disenvasi, and he would say it, I want to hear the voice of my enemies as they're dying. It means to say, like, get rid of this lice. This is something that for a human being is considered something that you're allowed to kill creatures that make it harmful for a human being. And therefore it says, I want to hear them dying. Now, Tanya learned the Brisa that it's a machlekes tanoim. Shimon Lazaimi says, "Ein hargenes machlekes b'Shabbos." You're not allowed to kill lice on Shabbos. They're b'Shabbos, because why not? Why could you kill lice? Why is it different than any other creature? But in this, the halach lamaiso Beis Hillel matarn. Beis Hillel say it's actually permitted. Now, the reason for this is, as someone just asked before, the Gemara says later on the Kav Zayin Beis, where do we know all the malachas on Shabbos? We know it from the malachas that were done in the Mishkan. Now, which animal did they kill in the Mishkan? Where the Elim Mo'adamim. They took the rams and they used it to make the hides for the coverings of the Mishkan. Just like the rams are parim v'ravim, they proliferate, meaning they have children. So to any creature that is par v'rava, those types of animals you're not allowed to kill. Now, lice are not par v'rava. Where do lice come from? They come from a person's flesh. That's where they germinate from. They come from a person's skin, from the person's sweat. That's where the lice come from, and therefore it's not a parvarava. It's not an animal that procreates, and that's why there's no problem about killing them, because it's all learned from the Mishkan. The Mishkan, they only used an animal that was parvarava, and therefore actually that's halacha l'maisa. You're allowed to kill lice on Shabbos. Now, v'chein, so too, like we just brought a machlekes b'sham b'sil, that there's also the following machlekes b'sham and b'sil. So the first opinion holds, you're not allowed to make a shidduch, arrange for a girl to get engaged on Shabbos, because it says in the pasuk, you have to stop yourself from doing things that are to fulfill your own desires. On Shabbos, we're totally designated to Hashem. To be involved in other things like making a shidduch is not for Hashem purpose like a Shabbos. You're not allowed to go ahead and arrange a shidduch for a girl to get engaged on Shabbos. Neither to go ahead and get a boy engaged, or the lamdei sefer, the lamdei umnis, or to get him, to teach him, to get him involved to learning a subject, or to teach him a profession. You're not go ahead and console the mourners because you're going to be in pain with them on Shabbos. You're not allowed to visit a sick person on Shabbos. That's all b'Shabbos, that's the b'Shameh. Now, however, we don't rule like this. We hold actually all the things we just said. As we say these things in the Zmirs, you're allowed to do all these things. Beis Hillel, who would be Shami Basil? Right, yes. Okay, was Rabbi Rosenberg, he's going to tell the Chaim Shmuel. So Basil Matir, and yes, so that's the other way around. It's actually Basil who says that it's permitted, and Bishami say it's forbidden, and the reason why that is because Basil say it's permitted because it's only chefzecha. That when we say, it says in the pasuk, Mimtzei chefzecha, you're not allowed to fulfill your own desires. It's your own, but not cheftzei shemaim. These things is cheftzei shemaim. It's not considered something Hashem wants you to have a panas. Hashem wants you to do all these things, and therefore, Basil say it's permitted. It's actually permitted to do these things on Shabbos. Now, once we discussed the halacha of visiting a sick person on Shabbos, so turn to learn the brayso in general. First, we're going to discuss regarding Shabbos. So, what happens if we rule like Beis Hillel, and we say that you're allowed to visit a sick person on Shabbos. So, when you come on Shabbos, what do you say? You're not supposed to say tefillas on Bakashas on Shabbos. So what do you say when you visit a sick person on Shabbos? So you say, Shabbos-y, it's Shabbos. Milizig, from screaming out. Now, but the healing is quick to come, and therefore what essentially you have to do is you have to expand the sick person's consciousness that he shouldn't be in pain. So you're telling him, look, it's Shabbos, we're not allowed to scream out and daven, but don't worry, the refuah is coming close to come. That's what you say. For Meir, he says, Shabbos itself could create mercy, meaning if you are Machabed Shabbos and you're not in pain on Shabbos, and we're not going to complain and cry on Shabbos, that itself could actually heal you and be the schus for refuah. That's what you tell a sick person on Shabbos. Tin Tamid Beis, Rabbi Yehuda, he says a different terminology. He says, Hamakim Yirachem Alecha. May Hashem have mercy on you, V'al Yisrael, and on the sick people of the Jewish people. Another version, Rabbi Yisrael, he says, Hamakim Yirachem Alecha, let the place, which is a designation, appellation of Hashem's name, Yirachem Alechem, let him have mercy on you, B'toich Yisrael, within the sick people of the Jewish people, meaning, since you're including this sick person with all the other people, the tefillah is heard actually quicker, more easily, because it's the schus of the rabbim. Since you're including him with the rabbim, like what a minyan is, when you say B'toich Yisrael, you're including him in all the other sick people, that's more of a schus to him for the tefillah to be answered. Now, Shavna, who was an Ish to Yerushalayim, who was a great person in Yerushalayim, his name was Shavna, when he would come in to visit a sick person, he would say on Shabbos, Shalom, he would say peace. Now, B'tziyasei, which actually the version we say Lamaisa, when he would leave, he would say, Shabbos, Shabbos, Melizik, we refrain from screaming out, V'refuah Karei V'lovei, but the healing is quick to come, V'rachmav, and the minig is not to say this part, V'rachmav, and the mercy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Merubin, is manyfold, V'shivsu b'shalom, and you should rest in peace, or like Rashak brings Lishalom, two peace, because you're not supposed to say b'shalom, rest and peace on Shabbos, or two peace. Now says the Gemara, according to whom does it go like the following teaching Reb Chanina, which actually is halacha l'maisa. If someone has a sick person in his house, he has to include him amongst all the sick people in the Jewish people. Come on, who's that like? That's Krib Yesi, who, and actually that's a meaning what we do. We say, B'seich Shar Choyli Yisrael, we want to include the sick person when you're davening for all the sick people, because that's going to be a bigger schus of the rabbim, that he's part of them, for the tefillah to be heard and to be healed. Now, another teaching from the Reb Chanina on this topic, he says, B'koichi hitiru, it was with great difficulty that they permitted, and actually that's why in halacha one should not try to push off nichma ve'el mabikachem to do it on Shabbos, because it is a b'diavad. It was a great difficulty that they permitted a person to console a mourner or to visit a sick, to console mourners or to visit a sick on Shabbos. They did. You're permitted to, if the circumstances were that you couldn't do it. And you say certain neschais, you don't say hamokim menachem eschem. You say the similar type of idea. You don't say bikachem. You say hamokim. What does it say? Shabbos imelizik v'nachama krei v'lavai. You say neschais that is special for Shabbos, but again, we could do that. Now, once we mentioned the concept of Bikar Chayim, of visiting the sick on Shabbos, so the Gemara talks about it in general. Amar Rabbi Babachana, he says, when I would go after Rebbe Elazar, when he would go ahead and inquire regarding a sick person, says Zimnan Amar, sometimes he would say in Lashon HaKodesh, Hamakam Yifkedet Chol Shalom. May God remember you for peace. Now, V'zimnam is something he would say in Aramaic, which was the common language spoken in Bavel, and this has nothing to do with Shabbos. This is in general. He would say, Rachmanu yad kirnach l'shalom. Let God remember you in peace. So on that, the Gemara asks, Heicha abed hachi, how would he do this and say it in Aramaic? But V'amar Yehuda, he says, La'olam, and this halacha for an individual. La'olam al yishal adam tzrachim b'lashon Aramaic. A person should never say his own request in Aramaic. And V'amar B'yechan, he says moreover, he says, Kol hashol tzrachim b'lashon Aramaic, whoever says his request in Aramaic, the ministering angels don't pay attention to him, because the ministering angels, they don't recognize Aramaic. Now, we have praise that we say, Brech Shemei, we have praise that we say, so the place can say, and regarding the tzibur, we're not concerned by it. An individual, Allah is that he shouldn't be saying a Torah in Aramaic. So how could he come and tell this person in Aramaic, may Hashem heal you, but that's a prayer of an individual, and we say that's what we say in Aramaic because the ministering angels don't recognize that. Says the Gemara, shani chayla, but a sick person is different. The shchina imay, the divine presence is with a sick person. Therefore, he doesn't need that the ministering angels should bring the tefillah HaKadosh Baruch Hu within the pargid, from the wall that separates the people from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because the divine presence is right there. Hashem hears it directly. You don't need the angels to bring it, and therefore there's no problem about saying it in Aramaic. Because the Amrav on Amarav, he says, Menayin sheshchina sayid. From where do we know that the divine presence supports, meaning it helps the weakness of the sick person, es hachayla of the sick person? Like it says the pasuk in Tehillim, says Hashem yisadena, which is from word of sad, of helping. Hashem will assist him alaris devay on the sick bed. So therefore, again, it's not a problem about saying it in Aramaic. In the Brisa, this is actually halacha l'maisa too, although you'll see it's not generally a problem. If someone goes to visit a sick person, so Allah is like Yeshiva, shouldn't be sitting, you shouldn't sit on a bed, not in a chair. Ella, rather, when you come in to visit a sick person, what you should do is misatif. You should cloak yourself because of the awe of the divine presence. Like someone sitting in awe, you shouldn't be turning to different sides. But you should sit that way in front of the sick person. Why? Why are you getting so in awe of the sick person? Because the divine presence rests above the head of a sick person. Shlomo says in the pasuk, Hashem Yesedena, Hashem will support him al eretz divine in the sick bed. So you shouldn't be sitting. So Taisa actually explains the reason why it's not usually a problem, especially you go to a hospital or whatever, the bed is generally higher up. The whole problem about sitting is you shouldn't be sitting higher than divine presence. If the bed of the sick person with the divine presence on top of his head is higher than you, then you're allowed to sit. You're allowed to put up a chair by the sick person. It's only a problem if his bed is very low down, then you're going to be sitting, you're going to be like above the divine presence. That's actually halach l'maisa, a person should not do that. Now, another explanation of that same pasuk, and he says, how do you know that God sustains a sick person, not just supports, but actually like feeds him? So like it says in the pasuk, Hashem Yisadena, you could read it not like we said in the previous interpretation of sad, of supporting, but of su'uda. Hashem Yisadena, Hashem will sustain him al eretz divai on the sick bed. God sustains the sick person. That's another interpretation of this pasuk. Now we go back to the halacha of the Mishnah. We said that a person should not read something to the light of a lamp. And we said the reason for that is because Shemayata, you might come to tilt the lamp to get the oil to where the wick is to be able to see better, and therefore you shouldn't be reading to the light of the lamp. Now, Amar Rabba, he says, and this is a halacha l'maisa, even if it's the height of two people's heights, meaning it's very high up. The ox goad was something that a tool they would use to get the ox to move, which was even taller than the height of a person. Even two heights of ox goads, like we say 2 stories, this was the Talmudic terminology of stories. Even if you have 10 houses, one on top of the other, you have an apartment building. Even if the lamp is so high up, there's no concern about tilting it. But since the Rabbanan made a gzera that you should not be reading to the light of a lamp, so this is what's called in Talmudic literature loy plug. We say loy plug, we don't differentiate. You're not allowed, because once we say, then you're going to think, oh, you can read to the light of the lamp. No, in all situations, however the lamp, however high up it is, you cannot read to the light of the lamp because of the gzera shemayat. Even though this situation is not really practical, you're not going 10 stories up to go ahead and tilt the lamp to be able to read better. If you will, you'll remember by that time. It doesn't make a difference, it's still going to be forbidden. Now, however, the Gemara explains there are some exceptions. What's the exceptions? Because when we said in the Mishnah lo yikra, we said in the singular, lo yikra is he, in the singular of one person, he shouldn't read to the light of a lamp. So says the Gemara, chad lo yikra, the inference is one person is not allowed to read to the light of the lamp. Hatre, but two people, shaper dami, they actually could together read something. Now the reason for that is because generally when you have two people doing something, one person will remind the other one. He'll say, hey, you're tilting the lamp. So by himself, he might not realize, but when you have two people doing it together, then one will remind the other, and therefore you're allowed to read to the light of the lamp, because the other one will remind him that it's Shabbos, you're not allowed to tilt it. But says the Gemara, Vatanya in the Brisa says actually, lo echad v'lo ishnaim. How can you say that? A Brisa says clearly you're not allowed to read one or even two people. That refutes the inference we made from the Mishnah. Amar Rabbi says, like kash is not difficult, and this is actually the halach l'maisa too. Khan in the Mishnah was talking about be'inyin echad. When you have two people reading the same page, the same topic, so then you're allowed to read two people together because they're reading the same thing, and he'll see when he's stretching out his hand, and he'll stop. Khan, the Brisa says even two people cannot read is b'shnei and yanim, is by two parshas. Since everyone's looking at their own part, they're not going to recognize what the other one's doing, then it's forbidden even by two people. Now, more of another qualification, Amar Rav Huna, he says, is also halacha l'maisa, ubemedura, by a large bonfire, afila asar b'nei adam asur, even 10 people are forbidden to go ahead and read by the light of the candle. The reason for that is because since there's a huge fire, first of all, everyone's sitting very far from each other, and moreover, since they're very close to the pieces of the flames, because it's a large bonfire and you could be close to the twigs that are sticking out, so they're not going to recognize when one of the other ones are going to come to move a branch, because everyone's around this large bonfire. So therefore, when you have 10 people, 100 people, it doesn't make a difference. When there's a large bonfire, then we're concerned that it's more possible that you're going to come to tilt it, and then it's going to be forbidden. Now, however, again, another exception to the rule, in Zos halacha l'maisa, Amar Rav, he says, Im adam chashavu, is if the person who's reading by the light of the lamp is a very distinguished person, mutter, he's allowed to read to the light of the lamp. Now, the reason for that is because the whole concern is might come to tilt it. He never tilts it. He's a distinguished person. He says, Jeeves, please come, I need to be able to read a little bit better, and someone else tilts it. He never tilts it. Because of his chashivas, he doesn't tilt it, so we're not concerned on Shabbos to read by it, because anyways, he's not going to tilt it. However, Meisvei, the Gemara asks on the following brayso that we're going to see that even the Adam Chashav, not only we're concerned that he actually did tilt. Because the brayso says like this, Lo yikul ara in there, which it quotes the halacha of the Mishnah, don't read to the light of a lamp, Shemeyata, because you might come to tilt it on Shabbos. Now, Rabbi Shloimy ben Elisha says, Ani akra, don't worry, I will read to the light of the lamp, V'lo yata, and I will not tilt it. Now, Pamachas, one time, Kari, he was reading, Ubikish lahatis, in the middle of reading his sefer that he was learning, he wanted to tilt it. And he realized, Omar, he says, Kama Gedolim Divrei Chacham, how great are the words of the sages. That they said, don't read to the light of the lamp. He said, I thought I'm going to outsmart them. And look, I almost tilted it. But actually, Reb Nastam, he brings a different version. He says, no, Kara Vihita. The actual story was, he read and he actually tilted the lamp. Because of Al-Pakasi, so he wrote in his ledger, he wrote, Ani Yishmael ben Elisha, Karisi Vihitisi Neighbor Shabbos. He says, I read, I tilted the lamp on Shabbos. I violated the malach of kindling of Havara. When the Beis Hamikdash is going to be built, I'm going to bring a fatty karbachatas to atone for the sin that I did, that by mistake I did the malach of Havara. But one thing is, we see Shmuel ben Elisha is a very chashuv person, is a great tzaddik, and still we see that he tilted. Didn't you say that a chashuv person can read to the light of a lamp because we're not concerned he's going to come to tilt it? Here we see that he will tilt it. So Amr Ababi says, no, Shani Rishon ben Elisha. Why? He treats himself like a hedyot regarding the words of Torah. He makes himself like a common person. You're right. A regular chashav person who treats himself as distinguished, he would never do such a thing. Shmuel ben Elisha, although he really was Adam Chashav, when he was learning, he considered himself like a nothing. He would tilt the lamp to be able to see better what he's learning. And therefore, he actually did such a thing according to one version of Shabbos, but someone who treats himself like distinguished wouldn't do it, and therefore on Shabbos, he's allowed to read to the light of the lamp. Now, Tanichada, we learned in the Brisa, we're going to have a contradiction in the halacha. One Brisa says, Shamash, a servant, he could inspect cups and plates to the light of a lamp. Meaning, we're not concerned Shemayatza. The problem is, another Brisa says, Lo Yivdik, he's not allowed to check. So is a servant allowed to check the cups to see if it's clean for the Friday night Suda on Shabbos or not? Says Gemara like Kach, it's not difficult. Khan, the Brisa that says that he's not allowed to check, is B'shamish Kavua, is by the regular permanent waiter. He's not allowed to check because he's afraid of his master. If it turns out to say that there's stains on the cup, it's not cleaned very well, he's concerned that he's going to really get a real report, and therefore he's going to check very well. If he has to check very well, he can't see so well because his master picks up the fork and he says, "This is clean." So he's very afraid. So he has to really check very well. He might come to tilt the lamp to see very well. That's by a permanent waiter, by permanent slave. But Khan, the Brisa says you could check, is b'shamashen kavua, is by a temporary waiter, where he's not so concerned. He's just hired for the weekends. Oh, it's not perfect. It's good enough. You know, his boss knows that's good enough. But therefore, that's one resolution. V'bay say, if you want to give another approach, no, both of them are talking about by permanent attendance. V'loy kash, that's not a difficulty. The one that says aser is talking about b'demishka. We're talking about by an oil lamp. An oil lamp, that's something that has a good smell. It's a regular type of lamp. There you might come to tilt it. But the Brisa says that you could check. We're not concerned you're going to come to tilt it. Is b'denefta. It's from neft. It has a very bad smell. There you're allowed to check to the light of the lamp of neft because you're not going to come to tilt it because no one wants to smell that bad smell. So therefore, there you could check. So we have two different approaches. Either one is talking about b'shamish kavua, and the other one is talking about b'shamish ein kavua, or one is talking about both are by a regular waiter, regular permanent attendant, but one is talking about that it has shemen. There you might come to tilt it. The one from neft is a bad smell. He's not going to come to tilt it. Now, Ibaylahu did the following question regarding based on the previous the first interpretation, the way Tosfos explains for Rashi. Shamish she'ein kavua, a temporary waiter, b'demishcha, by an oil lamp. Meaning, on the one hand, since he's not a regular waiter, you said that he wouldn't even tilt during the weekday. He's not so concerned because it's clean enough. He's not the regular waiter. So therefore, even on Shabbos, it would be permitted. Or maybe do you say, like we have in the second answer, since ultimately it's an oil lamp, since it's not disgusting, so maybe he would tilt it. So it's like has half and half. On the one hand, he's a non-permanent waiter, so that he wouldn't tilt because of that. On the other hand, it's an oil lamp, so maybe he would tilt it. So what's the halacha? So Maravi says the halacha is that it's permitted, but ve'im moirin kain. But we don't rule like this. We don't say that he's allowed to check it to the light of the lamp because we don't want people to be disgraceful with the Isser on Havara of Shabbos, because if we let you check, you might come to tilt it. So it's permitted, but we don't tell people straight up that you're allowed to do that. And Rabbi Yirmiyah Ba'abba, he says halacha moirikin. He says the same thing. Halacha is really allowed to check the cups if you're not a permanent waiter to the light of the lamp, because we're not really concerned you're going to check. But we don't tell people you're allowed to, because then everyone's going to go ahead and start using lamps and checking, and they're going to come to tilt. Now the Gemara brings a story related to this. The Rabbi Yirmiyah Ba'abba ikla lebei Ravasi. He went to the house of Ravasi. Come Shammai, the attendant of Rabbi Yirmiyah, who in the house of Ravasi was not the permanent waiter. So although he was Rabbi Yirmiyah's, but he was in the house of Rabbi Asi, so he's the Shama She'en Kavua. He got up and Kabadik Lenahar Dishrug, he started checking the cups, the cutlery, to the light of a lamp. So Amalei the Besu, so the wife of Ravasi said to Ravasi, Umarli Avad Hachi, but the master, you don't do this. How can you let his waiter check to the light of the lamp? So Amalei, he said to her, Shavke, leave him Karabi Svirli. He holds like his Rabbi Yirmiyah, who we quoted that he says halachu moirin kain. He rules that you're allowed to even tell them that you're allowed to do it. And since his waiter over here is the shama she'en kavua, is not the permanent waiter, his teaching held that you're allowed to go ahead and allow someone to initially do it, even by an oil lamp, because we're not concerned that he's come to tilt it, and therefore we let him do it, and therefore he says let him do it. Now the last halacha we're going to discuss is the halacha of the Mishnah, that although we said in the Mishnah that you're not allowed to read to the light of a lamp, because we're concerned you're going to come to tilt it, but by Emer Samar, in truth they said hachazan v'chulu. But regarding which we had two different interpretations in Rashi, does the chazan mean to say the gabbai in shul? He's allowed to glance at what school children are learning because he could see tomorrow by the aliyas where it starts, where it stops. Although no one's allowed to read straight and sit down and read a book or read a sefer because you might come to tilt, but just to glance at what's the beginning and the end of the parashas, that he's allowed to do. Or chazan actually means the rebbe, the school children teacher. He's allowed to glance at what they're doing so that he knows what to teach them tomorrow. That's the two different interpretations. But whatever it is the chazan, he's not allowed to read, but he's allowed to glance. On that, the Gemara asks, as the Gemara will actually clarify what we just said. V'amid reisha raya, you said that, you're talking about that he's allowed to see, as the Mishnah says, heichen tinekis kaira. You're saying aval hula yikra. The Mishnah says he cannot read. The question is, the beginning of that sentence said that he could be raya. He could see. So my love likris doesn't mean to read. Isn't that a contradiction in the sentence itself? First you say he could see heichen tinekis likris, and then you say he cannot read. So could he read or could he not read? Says Gemara loy. No, it's not a difficulty. Because lasader rashi parshiyasim. We're talking about what could he do? What could he be raya? It's saying that he might look. It's only to just get the beginning of the parashas to get it fluent in what's going to be his lesson tomorrow, because it's fluent. He'll remember either like the other interpretation of Rashi, that if he's the gabbai, so tomorrow he'll be able to help along those who are getting the aliyahs regarding what the nekudis are and what the timim are, but he cannot read. It's just saying that he could only glance briefly. He could just get the beginning of the parashas. He cannot sit down and read. He could only do the chapter headings, like it's called. On that is the Gemara. Is that really so? But v'kula parsha loy. But he cannot sit down and read the whole parsha. But as you continue to have a Gimel and Aleph, the Gemara is from the following brisa. He says, "Hatinoikesh al beis rabban, the school children, hayimesadrin parashiyos. They would prepare the whole parsha, and they would read to the light of the candle." So you see that not only the Rashi parashas, you see that even the whole parasha, the school children with their Rebbe are reading to the light of the candle. So you see it's not just Rashi parashas. So actually, if you want, you could say actually no, Rashi parashas. When we said the school children could be learning to the light of the candle, it was only the chapter headings. Meaning the school children, that really all of it they're doing outside. But the chapter headings is what they're glancing inside. For that's not like an activity you're doing primarily by the light of the candle. They were not concerned you're going to become distracted. That's exactly what we said regarding the chazan. Rashi parashas, just to glance, you could glance to the light of the candle. But to sit down and learn, no one could do that to the light of a lamp. That's one approach. Or if you want, you could actually say, Shani Tinaikis, no, the school children are different. Actually, this halacha lamaisa, the amos rabban alein. They have the fear of their teacher on them. And loy aselatzlui, they're not going to come to tilted. They're never going to stretch out their hand to do anything, even during a weekday, unless the Rebbe lets. He says, what's going on? Why are you looking over here? Why are you touching? Don't touch your things. And he's afraid to do that. So on Shabbos, he's not going to stretch out to the lamp either. So that's two approaches, either to say that you're right, even the school children is only Rashi Parshiyasav, school children could read the whole thing, but that doesn't tell us regarding the Chazan that Knesset, regarding the Chazan, whether it be the Gabi or the school Rebbe, he could only look at Rashi Parshiyasav. That was the shiur today. Now, some of the ideas we spoke about in today's daf, as you can see, I'm still playing around, this time with notes. So on Daf Yud Beis, we spoke about that a person, unlike the rule of the Mishnah that says you're not allowed to go out with certain things Erev Shabbos, but with tefillin, you're allowed to go out Erev Shabbos with chashecha. What's the reason? Why don't we say you might come to forget? Because by tefillin it's different, because a person has to be memashmish. You have to be touching tefillin all the time. Why do you have to touch tefillin? That's a kabel chaymer from the tzitz. Because by the tzitz, we said that it has only one name of Hashem, and the pasuk says that he should constantly be recalling about the tzitz. So the tefillin, which has many of God's names, for sure you have to be remembering it, and therefore you let it go out even Erev Shabbos. You're not going to come to forget because you're constantly touching the tefillin. Also, we said halacha, very important halacha, that a person should be checking his garments Erev Shabbos before it gets dark, and the place can say really even on Shabbos, because to make sure that there's nothing on you that's connected to it, you might do the malacha of haitzah. We also said in the halacha of the Mishnah, a person should not check his garments for lice. Now the question was, what does that mean? Is that even during the daytime? Now why can't you check for lice on Shabbos? Is because you might come to kill the lice. Okay, what's the problem? Because we're going like Rabbi Eliezer holds that, killing lice is just like killing a camel. What's the difference? Or actually, no. You're allowed to check for lice during the daytime. Because we hold like the Rabbanan who says that lice are not considered the malacha deraisa of killing on Shabbos because they're not parvarava, they don't have children. The whole malacha was like the eilim adamim, that they have children, that's a malacha in the Mishkan. So why can't you do that? When it says in the Mishnah, la'or haner, that was going back on not only lo yikra, that was going back on also on both of them, even on lo yifalas kelev, because you're coming to check, where's the lice, and this and that, he's tilting the candle, you might come to do the malacha of avar on Shabbos. That was the problem. The Gemara actually concluded, yes, it was going on both of them, shemayata. The problem about checking for lice is only during the nighttime, because you might come to tilt the candle during the daytime and hold like the Rabbanan, that is no problem. Now this about that we said it's a problem about checking something to the light of the lamp, we said is even to check between his garments and his wife's garments. Now we said that that's specifically regarding the people of Mechuzah, and specifically only by the older ladies, where then the men's clothing, which were more wide open because they didn't do the work, and the older ladies' clothing are very similar, but the younger ladies or that of villagers, you could obviously tell the difference between the man's clothing and the woman's clothing. There's no problem about taking from your closet to the light of the lamp because you're not going to come to tilt. We also spoke about different customs and opinions regarding checking for lice, on Shabbos, and regarding we spoke about Rosh Hashanah, that one should not do that in the public, and then we spoke about regarding Shabbos, that what's the appropriate way? Can you just throw it off your clothing? Can you even roll it? And that would depend on, according to the way Rashi explains it, if there's an Issa Deraisa about killing lice on Shabbos or not. If there is, then you're not going to let you roll it because you might come to kill it. If it's only Issa Derabanan anyway, you're allowed to take it, give a good roll, flick it away, so that even if you did kill it, it would be a shvuz. We're not going to make a shvuz to shvuz, not going to be concerned for that. Then we spoke about another machlekes of Beisham Beisil regarding how do we define mimtzei cheftzecha. Beishamai says, well, you can't be involved in shidduchim and teaching people professions. It's not Shabbosdik. What are you talking about these things? Menachem Avelim, Bikr Chaylim. But Beisil says, no. Cheftzecha, it says. If something is a heavenly, that Hashem wants it, according to Beisil, you're allowed to do it. So Hashem wants people to make shidduchim and to have a profession and to visit the sick and to console the mourners, and you're allowed to do that on Shabbos, although it's because Shehitiru, Bikr Chaylim and Nichem Avelim, but you're allowed to do that. Now, we said when you're doing Bikr Chaylim on Shabbos, you don't say a regular tefillah like you normally do, because you're not supposed to daven personal bakashas on Shabbos. You say Shabbos imelizik or refer kroy v'lova, and there was many different nuschais that were brought in the Gemara. The one we say is Shabbos imelizik. Now, we said that when you come to visit a sick person, there was a one Talmid Chacham that he said sometimes in Hebrew, sometimes in Aramaic. So the question was, but we know there's halacha that says you shouldn't daven b'lashon Arami because the angels are not makir, they don't recognize. But that's why we said that a chayil is different because the shechina is with the sick person, and therefore you don't need to go through the malachim here directly. And that's why we said also a person should not sit above the head of a sick person because the divine presence is there. Again, by us, it's usually not a problem because the sick person is in a high bed. But if it would, your person is not supposed to sit down. We said that this halacha of the Mishnah that you're not supposed to read to the light of a lamp is even if it's very high up, because that's what's known in Talmudic literature of loy plug. We don't make a differentiation. Now, moreover, we said there are certain exceptions to the rule of the Mishnah. We said if there's two people, you're allowed to. Now, we said, however, that specifically if you're reading from one idea. But if you're reading two different things, even if it's two people, you're not going to see the other person, then it's forbidden. And also, it's not going to help by a medura. Even if you have 10 people, a large bonfire, people don't see each other, they're very far away from each other, and also that you could be very close to the twig, there it's also going to be forbidden. And additionally, another exception was that we said that a chashav person is going to be permitted. Shmuel ben Elisha, he went and he did tilt, he's a chashuv person. Yes, because he treated himself like a common person regarding learning Torah, and therefore he went and he tilted, but a regular chashuv, a person who treats himself like that would not do that. Then we had two brises regarding a shamish. Is he allowed to check cups and other cutlery regarding to the light of the candle? So one brisa says he's allowed, one said he's not. How do we resolve that? So one interpretation was, if he's a permanent waiter, then he's not allowed because he's worried for his job. He's going to really check very well. He might come to tilt. A non-permanent one, it's okay. I came, you found me for the weekend. He's not so concerned. Or the other approach was b'mishcha. If it's an oil a lamp, then it has a good smell. Then you might come to tilt it. But if b'deneft, if it's nefta, which has a bad smell, then we're not going to be concerned that you're going to come to tilt it. Then we ended off by saying regarding the chazan, that although it says he's not allowed to read, but it says he could be raya. So he says, yes, he could be raya, this Rashi parshas. He could only see the chapter headings. Just to glance, we're not concerned you're going to tilt. But to sit down, he's not allowed to. And additionally, we said that so too the school children, when we say they're allowed to learn, is only the chapter headings. Or it could be that the children are actually allowed to learn the whole parsha. They could sit down and learn the whole thing to the light of the candle. Why? Why are we not concerned they're going to tilt? Because even during the weekday, they don't do anything because they're afraid of the Rebbe, and therefore they're allowed to learn to the light of the candle. Thank you to Anytime for hosting us.